Andrew Eborn joins me.
It's a pleasure to be back, Nick.
I did
Thank
get
you so
your name
much.
right then. Your eyes flashed.
You
and
did.
I thought, oh my God, it's not Andrew. What is his name?
I'm what's left of Andrew
You're all
Eborn.
over the airwaves.
More platforms than Paddington. Absolutely. It's got to be good.
How long have you been using that one?
I just came up with it on the spur of the moment.
Happy birthday to you. Facebook, 20 years old. Is this a good
as
thing?
the Facebook, as it was known when it was launched at Harvard University. Yeah. And it was an on-campus thing, which Mark Zuckerberg and his fellow mates...
Allegedly, Mark Zuckerberg, according to the film, kind of nicked the idea. Allegedly.
Well, the social network, I would recommend everybody should watch that. But he did this, he would with his college campus mates, and it was to replace the paper version of Harvard database,
That's
if you
right.
like. And they sort of
hang on, was Friends Reunited around then?
That was the early days and that sort of stuff. But what he did, he suddenly said, well, we're going to put it online. It's very basic, and there's some, go and look at the old images, you could have your picture up and say who you were and when you joined and so on and so forth. What happened? He then bought out his mates. They sued him, the people he founded it with, and he bought them up for a few million and a few shares.
And he had to settle.
It's now worth billions. If you look at the share price, an absolute fortune. But basically, what's
has he ever made a profit?
Oh, well, absolutely. It turned over huge amounts of money. What happens
doesn't mean
moment?
It's a profit if it's turning over.
Yes, turnover is vanity.
Profit is sanity.
As they
my
always
wife
say.
kept telling me that when I ran our business. Anyway, listen, on a more serious note, Andrew, I've been asking the question, really, do you kind of celebrate social media as being here for 20 years or not? There's a real dark side to it. We saw that with the murder of teenager Brianna Gay, which was quite shocking. And isn't it interesting that her mother has come out and she was talking to the BBC, and she said that being a parent in this day and age is really difficult because basically the internet is the Wild West, and she believes technology is on phones for children. I think that's under 16 is what she was talking about.
Yes.
They shouldn't have access to apps, and we should try and actually limit social media site access because you just don't know as a parent what's going on, do you? Yeah. I mean, I don't know how, but this dark side is very worrying. I mean, could you conceivably stop children having access to apps?
Well, I think what I love about coming on your show is we always shine...
Because I know nothing?
No, but we shine more light and less heat. And actually, I watched that very moving interview with Brianna Jai, is that how they pronounce her?
Oh, is it? I do apologise.
It is.
My producer is absolutely useful.
No, your producer is brilliant. I know your producer is brilliant. He's the best person in television. I love it.
I think he's just leaving now.
It's going to be good. Anyway, what happened is this, is putting it into perspective. So of the population, there's about 5 billion people on this earth. There's about 5.5 billion are connected to the internet, and about 5 billion have social media. What happens to the rules and regulations at the moment? So what you've got to look at the things. WhatsApp, which is how you communicate. So this is how. But
even WhatsApp, they were using WhatsApp to plan the murder of this poor girl.
And that's the point. So if we look at the rules and regulations at the moment, because I watched the interview, a very moving interview, tragic. How anybody can lose a child in the first place is awful. Losing them in these circumstances is absolutely abhorrent. And anybody, I defy anybody not to be moved to tears watching that interview. And how generous he was with her compassion, understanding that the murderers, they have their own family and the impact on them.
She didn't turn on the family at all.
No, she supported, she actually reached out to them, said, if you want to talk, you've also lost your children, working on that sort of basis. But this is what happens. The rules at the moment, when they were communicating, was via WhatsApp. WhatsApp is an end-to-end encryption. Now, what that means is that nobody knows what you've written, not even WhatsApp itself. Okay.
Or the Russians.
Or the Russians or anybody else, you're right. What happens in order to have a WhatsApp account, you have to be 16. So the rules are already there on that sort of basis.
But you can fake it, can't you?
Oh, no, but that's the point. So if you're talking about a rule change, what I'm saying is that let's look at the rules at the moment, because it's about enforcement. The other thing for social media themselves, all of them say you have to be at least 13, and there are rules and regulations. What happened in this particular case, if you have a mobile phone, to have a mobile phone contract, you have to be 18 in order to that sort of stuff. So what we need to do is take responsibility as a society. It's the parents, it's the legislators, it's the schools, but also social media companies to a certain extent. What we've got at the moment is to look at these particular facts, and they are abhorrent. What happened is they access what's called the dark web. Yeah. Now, the dark web is all about anonymity.
Don't tell people how to do it.
No, I won't. I wasn't going to. But actually, it was started, a lot of these things were started, interestingly, by the US government. And it was to help spies remain anonymous and swap information. The majority of stuff on the dark web is legal. But there are certain parts of it which are absolutely illegal. It shows all sorts of horrendous content. I won't describe it. This is what they're doing. And it pollutes young minds and anybody else. The rules at the moment in the law is that that material is already illegal. Accessing that material is already illegal. So it's about enforcement. What do we do on that basis?
And if parents are feeling they're absolutely not empowered to do it, because you just put your phone down. You know, some parents will go to extraordinary lengths. They'll put key searches, won't they?
Yes.
That you can actually see what your son or daughter has been typing away at. That is the difficulty. It's the practicality of what she's saying. I think her idea is that under 16s can only have a certain type of phone, and that wouldn't have the apps on. But that's so status. Again, even then, you just go to the black market.
And that's the problem, Nick. And absolutely, and it's that balance between privacy and security. And so I was looking particularly at these particular cases. Whatever happens, it wouldn't have prevented this sort of access to the dark web, because it's illegal anyway. To have a mobile phone, you need a contract or whatever. There are already phones which are children friendly.
So let's look at it another way.
Yes.
Let's take a Facebook, right? Yes. Should if Facebook had been used for this, which I'm not saying it had been, and it wasn't, as I understand it, but whatever the platform provider, do they know what transactions are happening on their sites? Do they know someone, if they're using, do they have algorithms that say, my God, there's words being used here that point to horrific horrors, murders, assault? Do they know?
Well, you will know, and I predicted for years that data is the new currency. And basically, if you're getting a service for free, I've always said you then are the product. They're getting information about you. And the scandal, but Facebook is glorious and it's done some wonderful things, but there's also been some scandal along the way. And you might recall in 2018, Cambridge Analytica basically was selling data about people in order to help influence their voting preferences, if you like. And that information was sold because data is power, information is power. And it led to the change from Facebook as a name to Meta, which encompasses all sorts of things from WhatsApp to Instagram and various other things as the company. The company itself turned over $134.9 billion.
Facebook, apparently, I think Chris has just sent me a message saying Meta made enough profit in the last 3 months of the last year to fund UK defence spending for 6 months.
Exactly.
That's about 25 billion.
Yeah, exactly. And so talking about your profits, absolutely they are now. And they've just they've declared a dividend of 50 cents per share. So it's absolutely zillions is worth on that sort of basis. What's interesting, going back to what I was saying about the law at the moment and what they can do, that we just talked about the online safety, what is now the Act. People are so used to about talking as a bill. And it imposes an obligation on social media companies to tidy up illegal works and so on and so forth, to make sure that the appropriate things are dealt with, and to ensure that users comply with the terms and conditions. If they don't do that, there's a fine of $18 million, which is nothing, or £18 million in the UK, or 10% of global turnover. Now, you're talking, I'll give you the figures. Google is $305.6 billion. Wow. Meta, as I say, is $134.9.
So that's about
Twitter,
45 billion I've just seen
exactly.
there.
So it's massive, in addition to the criminal side. So the point that I would make is absolutely it's abhorrent what's happened, but there are rules and regulations already in place to make sure that we've got those protections. So that's what we need to look at, is look at these things, look at phones. But the other thing you have to do, there's a good side to it. So Brianna, one of the things that she lived for were her posts on TikTok. And I've had a look at some of those. Joyous celebration of life, if you like. And she had 38.5 thousand viewers and over millions of views, and subscribers, and over millions of views for those sort of stuff. But it was part of her life. And so you couldn't practically take that away from children, because it's an empowering thing. What you need to do is control access to the unlawful content and make sure that we have that sort of side. But it's that balance between privacy and protection.
You do, but I think you've tried to answer in a very complicated way. Why can't someone, okay, simplified here, an algorithm sitting in a room somewhere, spot what's going on and say, send it to the police?
Oh, they can, absolutely.
So how on earth did this happen, do you think? Well,
two things. Is you can for the general social media, and that's exactly what happens if you use certain words on a phone call. You know, it triggers and alarms, so on and so forth. Where it's encrypted, end-to-end encryption means that even the companies themselves can't access it.
Okay, fine. But then this dreadful woman, Jenkins, the murder, she was looking at stuff that was posted that was just foul. It was just grotesque in every scale. What is it doing up there? Was that in the dark web
Yes.
or the other web?
That was in the dark, and that's why I think it's important to make the distinction.
So if it's in the dark web,
yes,
we all know about that. Why aren't the controllers, the state, trying to get into that to see what nutcases are out there?
Well, you're right. And the thing about the dark web is, by its very nature, it is dark and nobody can follow you.
That's the problem. Wow.
So that's the issue. So it's not Facebook, which is out there in the public, and you can trigger the words and so on and so forth.
That is frightening.
And that's why it's important to recognise that. WhatsApp messages, if I was planning things with you, and WhatsApp have been in the post about people losing them all the time, it's in the media, you know, whether it's up in Scotland or Boris losing his, or in all sorts of cases where they lose these WhatsApp messages. The only people who can see those are the two people in conversation. Not even the platform can see our conversation if we spoke on WhatsApp. And that's the issue. So
is that why Nicola Sturgeon and Boris Johnson got away? Once they're deleted,
exactly.
That's it.
And Rebecca Vardy, who lost hers at the bottom of the sea. These WhatsApp messages...
She didn't have to lose it at the bottom of the sea. She could have just deleted them, couldn't she? No one would be able to see them.
Exactly.
Footballers wise, eh?
Hey.
Who would know? Listen, thank you, Andrew. A tour de force as ever, and you've enlightened me a little bit about the dark web and what's been going on here. It's wonderful to have you. You've been so busy on Talk TV. It's wonderful to have you back in. I hope you get some of the weekends yourself. That's Andrew Eborn, lawyer and broadcaster.